webinar series. This webinar is called as One Step at a Time. What it essentially means is, as we are going through this uncertain period, we also thought we will move towards our goal one step at a time, different topics, different speakers, and a fairly an interactive session. This is not meant to be a lecture. There are no grades, there are no exams. So people who are here are essentially in their own interest. So it is in their own interest to get as much as possible. With that, I would like to introduce Mr. Raghuttama Rao, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Gopalakrishna Deshpande Center at IIT Madras. Most of you would be already aware of that center. So it runs one of the flagship programs called as the Incubate, which helps a lot of our campus entrepreneurs and faculty members identify their market. Prior to this, he was the chief mentor at ICRA, credit rating and analytical firm in South Asia, and a subsidiary of Moody. And his last executive role was MD and CEO of IMACS, a management consulting business, which he founded as the subsidiary of ICRA, with an operating footprint of over 20 countries. So Raghu has significant experience in the startup world, having been there, done that, mentored, advised, and he also sits in the board of fairly large sized companies as well. So with that, I would like to invite Raghu for this session and share his thoughts with the young and budding entrepreneurs in the team. Raghu?
Thank you, Satya, for a generous introduction. And so, I don't want to make a presentation. I only have 3 slides, but I want to engage in a conversation with entrepreneurs. So I'm going to talk on business model and revenue model. These are pretty dry topics to talk about. So I'm going to ask all of you to unmute your mics. All of you. If there's too much of a noise, we can selectively mute you, so that the idea of unmuting is so that we speak and have a discussion rather than a monologue. Right? What I'm going to share with you doesn't really fit monologues. I'm told by Satya and Nandini that almost all of you, if not all of you, are entrepreneurs. So you are already nurturing some or have built something. And so I have built a few, I have destroyed a few, and I've kind of played around a bit in this. And I am now on campus. I studied here many years back, and now I'm back again in a different role. And what I thought we'll do is to understand what is a business model, what is a revenue model, and all that. Let's hear that from you. Okay, so anyone, I'm going to invite anyone who has a startup. If you don't have a startup, that's also fine with me. I just want you to share with me one by one, and let's get a few facets on what do we understand by a business model. Yes. Question: what's a business model? Anyone? Unmute and speak. Or I'm going to randomly unmute people.
Oh man, you're creating an exodus here, but nevertheless.
That's okay. That's okay.
But I think nevertheless there are.
No, I'm not. I will invite a few, because it actually helps to build this discussion. So therefore, it doesn't matter what's right or wrong. It's just to chat.
So I would like to call upon Satvik, who is unmuted his mic already, also primarily because he's one of our very young members in the cohort who already took the opportunity during this COVID times to create, though short term, but create something and take it to the market and also get it to the customer. So Satvik, maybe you can lead the discussion and your friends will join you.
Yes. So Satvik, what's the business model? He's not speaking.
I think he's having a problem with the mic.
Who can unmute? You can unmute, Satya?
No, I can't unmute. I can only mute people.
You can't make people speak.
Yeah.
No, I really think, I think we need to make it interactive. I don't have material for a lecture.
It is not supposed to be a lecture anyway. This is chai pe charcha kind of a discussion. So let's see.
Okay, no chai, only charcha. Anybody who's out? Maybe we go in alphabetical order.
So I'll see if I can pull up one more person. If he's not unmuting and talking, we'll go in alphabetical. So Sandeep, you're there. You just recently joined us, and we have Raghu who is talking about revenue and business models. And since you have some experience in already generating revenue out of your products, which is this candy water bottles, can you talk about what you understand by business and revenue model?
Sandeep? In fact, talk about a business model and talk a little bit about your business. I'm fine with it.
Yeah. First, introduce your business model, and then you can talk about the other things. Sandeep?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, perfectly.
Yes.
Yeah. So we are into product selling. So it's a clay water bottle which we are selling right now. So far, what we have done is we have got into the retail model wherein we give.
Sandeep, you have 1 minute. You have to explain what is your understanding of business model. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So my understanding of business model is wherein you get a picture of where the money comes from and where it goes finally, and who gets served by your product, and yeah, so those things mainly. And right now the model which we are uh, employing is the retail model, where we give a small commission to the retailers and push our product in the retail stores and online e-commerce platforms.
Okay. Thank you, Sandeep. That's good. Anyone else? I'm not enjoying this. Sorry, guys, you have to speak up. As entrepreneurs, you don't speak, it's not good.
Okay, so I'm going to call upon the next person. I would like to call the person who recently joined, who caught my eye, is Karan Bonushali. Karan, so the question that we are discussing now is what we understand by a business model and a revenue model. So maybe you've been through the GDC cohort also, so maybe you can expose your understanding.
Okay. Sir, Karan here.
Hi, Karan.
Good to meet you after a long time.
Hi, Karan. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you, sir?
You know the exam questions, right? So now you should be able to explain what is a business model, right?
Yes, I know those two questions. Who's your customer and what problems you're solving?
Well, those questions are coming.
Hard-coded in our minds.
So I'm not going to give you any more questions. So you might as well explain what's a business model.
Okay. So I'll start with who's customer and what problems are we solving.
No.
So we are...
Lecture only 1 minute.
Okay, fine. The business model is we are building mobility as a service, where we give our e-bike as on rentals or as a per ride subscription to the daily commuters who are trying to go from home to office for short distance commute.
So you're just giving them bikes and that's the end of it?
For now we are working on that. Then we'll be adding more components to it.
What do they give you? They pay you for the bike at the end of the...
Yes, they pay you, like there is a per ride model as well as a subscription based model. So they pay us accordingly. How it's on their requirement.
Okay, so let me introduce something. What this word business model is not a very, although you hear it very often, it's not a very old...
Hello?
Yes.
Yes.
Somebody speaking?
Yeah, so yes, I'm correct speaking.
Yeah.
So
okay,
they either... So they either pay on the pay per ride basis or on the subscription basis, depending on how it fits their requirement.
Okay. Are you done?
Yes.
Okay. So a business model is not something that's, although one thinks that it could be very old in practice, but it is not. It's something that is, it's only about 2 or 3 decades old. And it actually came into use in a big way, when spreadsheets came along, and when the desktop processor and the spreadsheets came along. And really what it allowed people to do was, it allowed people to make financial models of their business, right? They could make their profit and loss. They could make a balance sheet. They could make cash flow. They could do a lot of things. Sales. They could do a lot of models, simple arithmetical models, and based on assumptions, they could tweak it. So if I went national, or if I opened one more factory, or I gave more margin to a distributor, you know, a lot of if then else questions and scenarios could be modeled, and you could see the results on your bottom line or revenues or whatever, investments and profits and all kinds of things. So with this came the concept that, okay, if I built this business model, which means if I structured my business in a particular way, you know, what would be the consequences for shareholders or debt holders or other stakeholders and so on, all that became possible. So it was really after spreadsheets came in, and then really spreadsheets started getting used in the 1980s and 90s in a big way, even before the internet came in. And you know, once Windows and other desktop packages became popular, it actually entered the business language. And once internet models came in, the new models started to come in. So you had the brick and mortar models, and then you had completely digital models, and you had hybrid models, and you know, so all kinds of new. You had multi-sided markets coming in. You know, so all kinds of new, novelties were coming along in the way businesses could get done. And that's the reason why business model entered the lexicon of business language, business schools, and conversations. That's the origin of really how business models came in. What I think as entrepreneurs, you should take cognizance of, you should be aware of, particularly as engineering students, is, and we will go through this sometime, you know, I will have to ask Karan to step off because he knows the exam questions, but others who have not, we will go through this. And I would really like a discussion on this. I mean, if you keep mum, then I don't think we can have the lecture. Honestly, I'm saying today. No discussion, no lectures. So at some point of time, I'd like to have some discussion with you on, you know, what is it that, you know, we're talking about in terms of a business model. So business model really is a set of activities. It's not about your product only. Your product is what you're building as engineers. Typically you ask, what are you doing? I'm building this product, I'm building this solution, I'm building this service, this is my innovation and so on. But a business model comprises of a lot of activities and operations around your product. Okay, and the ability to visualize all of these activities in their entirety is what is required to conceive of a business model. And it's not just these activities, it's also how they interlock with one another. So if you want to produce something, are you producing it in-house versus are you subcontracting it to somebody else as a third party who manufactures to your standards? So you give a business design, you give a product design and somebody manufactures that product. Now, what's your process for quality check? Does he self-certify? Do you have someone to certify that, or you don't have one, right? And then it gets shipped to the user. Does it get shipped to, is it pre-ordered? Is it made to order, or is it given to a third party to the channel and people come and pick it up? All of these are different business models. But ultimately, how do these activities from design, from conception, design, manufacturing, packaging, quality control, distribution, all of that, you know, even post-sales servicing, if that's involved, how do they interlock each other and deliver value to the customer? So that is what is called a business model. So understanding a business model is about getting familiar with different components, the relevant different components of your business, right? So you need to know what your different components are, understanding the relative share or balance between these components. So some companies have intensive manufacturing, some companies are intensive in marketing, some companies are intensive in support, some companies have all three, and maybe one or more of others. So the relative balance between these components and how do they interlink, right, to deliver value to the customer. So that is what is the business model. And someone else started off by saying what the revenue model vis-a-vis a business model. Revenue model is a component of your business model. How do you generate cash from your customers? Why do the customers pay you? If you can answer that, then you have a revenue model. Okay. So that's really all I had to talk about here. Now I really want all of you, and maybe before I start with the questions, I'd like to have 2 or 3 volunteers, because I don't want these questions to be hanging. So I'm going to put up these questions. There are 5 questions that underlie the construct of a business model. They are not a business model, okay, but they help you define a business model. I don't want you to solve all 5. They're simple questions, straightforward English. But if you can answer the first 3 questions, that's really what I want. So any of you as volunteers, start answering with respect to your business. The questions are here. And simply answer in your own words as you see it. There's no right or wrong answer. It's your business. It's your idea, right? And then we will help construct as a class what is the business model that or what are alternative business models that you could be looking at. Okay. So Satya, is it fair if I throw it up to this class, which is a bit reticent?
No, I think it's absolutely fine.
Yeah. Because I really don't see how else we can do a business model, other than a boring lecture.
So there are quite a few people who are at various stages of their journey. So I would, to kickstart the discussion, I would call upon a few people. Maybe they can explain, so the others can also open up or try to pitch in and how to go forward. So the next person I would like to call is Jubin, who is one of our PhD scholars, and he has a fairly exciting product called company called Iris Controls. And he also works on a few other similar areas where it helps the automotive companies. So Jubin, if you can, in the light of these questions, if you can talk with your company, it will be useful.
Just the first 3 questions, Jubin.
Yeah, thank Jubin. You are muted, Jubin. I saw you unmute yourself. You have gone back to mute. You've gone back to mute again. Just one click. Okay. So Jubin said he will reconnect now. He's getting muted repeatedly. So before he joins us, anybody else who would like to start? So Bhashwar?
Honestly, I have to say this point. If people are reluctant to talk, you will not make good entrepreneurs. Let me say this upfront.
Yeah.
Even if it's
good evening, everyone.
Popular.
Good evening, Divakar.
Yeah, sir, I'm Divakar. Yeah, I'm from the team Water Chakra. So we had previously interacted with Mr. Raghutama sir. I'm not sure if he remembers us, but
I do remember.
Yeah,
I remember you. Yeah, go on.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So the problem that we are solving is in India we have a lot of sanitation problems in toilets, especially public toilets, and we have a lack of public toilets. So what we came up with is a integrated system which uses waterless urinals, which saves a lot of water, and then followed by it we recover a lot of nutrients that are there in urine. For example, in wastewater treatment plants, there are a lot of ammonia and nitrogen and phosphorus, which are not being treated currently in India because of the lack of resources that we have. So what happens is this. Yeah, yes, sir. Yeah, yes, sir.
What you have just spoken is your solution.
Yeah.
Okay. What you have just spoken is your solution.
Yes,
I'm asking, what is your problem?
Yeah.
What is the problem that you're solving?
Yeah. Yes, so the problem is the lack of toilets and lack of toilets with proper hygiene. Like sanitation is a problem.
All right. Who has the problem?
Yes, sir.
Whose problem are you solving?
The general public, sir. All of us.
General public.
When we go for
hang on. Yeah. The general public.
Yes, sir. No, sir. Our target is corporations and corporate companies. And,
you see now
and municipalities and.
No.
Yeah.
So you see how you are changing. You said you're solving the problem of lack of toilets and lack of, or lack of water in toilets. Okay. And then you said general public.
Yeah. Yes,
and you said from general public, it has become corporation.
So, if we want to sell it as a profit, then we have to pitch it to corporations, and we also want to do it as a form of helping people. In that way, we want to sell it to municipalities and corporations to make it available in public places for general public to use. So, yeah,
Okay.
that's why I said.
See, the objective of the way of doing this as a question and answer is not to put you in a spot. Okay. The idea is to make people think and learn. All right.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Now, look at the third question. How is the problem being solved today?
Yes, sir. So our government has taken a lot of steps to put several toilets, but still the presence of toilets doesn't mean that people are using it, because there's lack of water. That's a big problem. So even though we start a lot of new toilets, because of lack of water, it's becoming, the proper sanitation is not followed.
So,
yes, sir.
Sorry, I'm interrupting so that we become brief and we learn. Okay?
Yeah.
So
yes,
what
sir.
is the problem you're solving? Are you solving the problem of lack of water?
Yeah, yes, sir. So we use a system
or are you making available clean toilet? See, you have to think about this. You know, if you can't think about what problem you're solving and for whom, right? You will not get a business.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Why? You know, corporations have been around for 100 years and more. Chennai Corporation is the oldest corporation in the world. Are you aware of this?
Yes, I am aware. Yeah, because we are with British people. Yeah.
For the last 200 years, they have not solved it. Then why do you think they'll solve it now?
Because now we have the technology that can do it. So we have a new novel technology.
So far? Nobody had the technology so far.
It was there available, sir, but it was not very energy efficient. But now we think we have a promising energy efficient solution for it.
Okay, so we'll stop here. See, the whole point is this: a business model, whether it's right or wrong. Yeah, Suraj, 1 minute. We'll give you a chance. What you need to go back and think about is not about your solution. The first thing to note about a business model is it is not about your solution. It is about your customer. It is about who you think is your customer. Okay, right? It is about who you think customer has a problem. Now, for example, you said your customer is the corporation. Okay, for example, you said your customer is the corporation. And my question to you would be to think, what is happening to the corporation because the problem is not being solved today? I would think nothing happens. Nobody loses their job. Nobody loses sleep. Nobody loses money. Nothing happens.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's
if
true.
Nothing happens to your customer or who you think is your customer, they don't have a problem.
Okay, yeah.
I'm being very provocative. Okay.
Yeah,
if they don't have a problem, then you're building a solution that they don't want.
Okay, yes, sir.
That is a failed business model.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm using, instead of teaching theory about what different parts of a business model are, what I'm trying to drive to you, since you're all entrepreneurs, is you look at these questions. What problem are you solving? Who has that problem? And why is he not solving it today? If you can answer this 3 questions, you can start to build a business model. Okay. So think about this and see if you can do better. Okay.
Yes, sir, definitely.
Not to say that you're wrong, but at least you're building something of value. The question is to find out who has got value for it and why will they pay you for it. That is the beginning of a business model. Okay. All right. Who wants to go next? I heard Suraj put up his hand.
So we have.
Hello, sir. Is it audible?
I'm sorry, who's speaking?
Is it audible?
Yeah, it is audible, Mahesh.
I am Mahesh.
Okay. Yes, Mahesh.
Yeah. Sir, we are from a startup. Actually, we are in the techno cohort project. We are trying to solve color vision deficiency by giving a correction glass. Color vision deficiency correction class or color blindness correction class. It will solve only the partial color blindness, not the total color blindness. And to answer the second question, we are solving it for people who have color blindness, which are like different types. And the majority of the type is deuteronomy. which is red-green color blindness. And right now the problem is being solved, but it is very expensive. Most of the products are from US, and they are like not affordable. They range from $500 to $600. Okay, without the import duty and so on, and shipping cost to be added. The problem is actually kind of big, which has not yet been solved yet, because in some countries, not in India, people who have partial color blindness cannot get driving license, and they have restrictions in armed forces recruitment and so on. So there are like problems even when we enroll for, when the people are enrolling for police service. Is it working, or did the screen just freeze?
It's working. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Okay. So these are the problems, and the size of the market is only men have this problem, majority of the men, and around 8% of the men population is affected by it.
Okay, so that's
So
very
we are
good.
trying to come up with some kind of a,
Am I audible?
yeah, we are trying to come up with some kind of a formulation which can be coated on the spectacles.
Okay, perfect. Okay, good, Mahesh. You laid out the problem. Now let's get into the discussion.
Satya, am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible. You're audible.
I'm getting a sign that I'm muted. That's why I was wondering.
No, you're audible.
So Mahesh, my question to you is this. I go back. You are solving
Yes,
the problem of color blindness or night blindness. What is it?
Color blindness.
Color blindness.
Yes.
Color blindness of men who constitute 8% of the population.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes, sir. A partial one. So partial color blindness.
Partial color blindness. What is happening to these 8%?
It's like if I'm being,
No, I understand. Let's get into this.
it's like I will be having.
Mahesh, can you answer my questions? So, what is happening to these people today because of their color blind? What are they losing?
They can't differentiate between the red and green and the shades of red and green.
So what?
So if you ask someone to press the red switch, they will press the green one by accident.
Nobody asked me to press.
They can wear red socks and green
last
socks.
58 years, nobody has asked me to press.
No. You. Maybe you don't work in a factory shop where red means stop and green means start. But these are problems that these people only face.
Mahesh,
you have to be colorblind to understand that particular problem.
Mahesh, don't get provoked. I'm just trying to get you to think. So, who are the people who are?
No, that's what.
Who are the people who are really affected?
I mean, colors are.
I understand what color blindness.
Colors are there everywhere. Like, yeah. So colors have become part of life. Even in your monitor screen, there are like lot of colors. Let's say metro line in a very crowded city like Delhi. There are like 4 or 5 lines, and there is a chance that they might be having difficulty in reading a metro map.
Very good.
And color coded resistors are there. Color coded resistors are there. Of course, they don't mesh up with traffic signal because the locations are different. But color coded resistors are really difficult for them.
Okay, so there are various impediments in various parts of life that people face because of color blindness, right? Okay. And so what is the real problem you're solving? Because they have a solution.
They have a solution, but it is expensive.
So what is the problem?
$600.
So what is the problem you're solving?
We are trying to solve that such that they can be able to see the they can able to sense the color difference without having to pay that much expensive.
No, you're not getting the question. You're not getting the question. The question, therefore, see this. If you answer this question properly, it will help you build your business model more correctly. Are there people who are?
I'm going to make a product which will enable the people who have color blindness to be aware of the colors.
Mahesh, Mahesh, I think you're not listening to my questions. You're answering probably at simultaneously. So there are rich people who are probably importing the item and using it from US or wherever.
Yes, sir, I agree there.
Are they your market?
They can be, because
Are they
they
your
are
market?
as well expensive. If they drop it, they'll have to import it again, right?
So you,
When,
the point,
let's say,
okay, the point you have to make in your business model is first choose your customer segment. The first
Okay,
building
sir.
block for anybody, this is not for you, this is for anyone who's an entrepreneur. So if you define your
Okay,
segment as men who are colorblind, that's a very big segment. That's about 10 crore people in India, or I don't know, 5 crore people in India. I don't know what the number is. Right?
yes, sir,
It's a
it
very
comes
large
around that
segment.
number.
It's a very large number. That may be
Yes,
your
sir.
overall market.
Yes,
A
sir.
startup cannot work by looking at that. So the first step in your business model will be to chisel down your customer segment, particularly for a startup. Where do 5 crore people who
Okay.
are blind, colorblind live? They live probably all over. They are students who
Yes,
have
sir.
work in a lab and have to choose resistors. They are factory people who have to choose between
Yes,
red
sir.
and green. They are metro commuters who have to distinguish color by looking at a red line, green line, whatever it is. They could be illiterate people who cannot distinguish colors, a metro line. They could be motorbike riders or bus
Yes, sir.
drivers who cannot distinguish signals. So there are many people. Okay? So you can't cater to all of them. The first point in a business model is to select your customer segment. And you have to figure out how. Like it was in the case for, I forget the name of the previous person, who came and said, we are making a toilet for a
Divakar.
corporation. I'm sorry?
Water Chakra. Yeah.
Okay, Chakra, yes?
His name was Divakar, I said.
Divakar, I'm sorry, yeah. So whether it's a corporation or whether it's a large company or whether it's a philanthropist, somebody like a philanthropist who's setting an NGO who's setting up toilets in the city, whoever it is, you have to be clear. And all of these people could have different needs. They could have different motivations. So in your case, a factory worker who's blind, right? He may actually lose his job.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a more serious thing than for a person who's not able to go in a metro. If he can't read, see the distinguished color, he can probably read it. If he can't read it, he can ask the next person. He'll manage.
Yeah.
Okay, not ideal, but he can manage.
That's true.
So you have to figure out in your business case, in each of you in your business case, who are the customers who are most likely affected severely? What are the implications for each of them which are different? For a bus driver a public bus driver, he is not bothered. But the bus corporation is worried that he could jump a signal and kill people. Right? Effectively, he also he could lose his job or he may not even qualify for the job. Right? So therefore, the implications are different. So your business model should therefore then be targeted probably for people for whom it is more critical and who can't afford to buy it. It's not very essential for people who can afford to buy it. So when you look at a startup business, you have to figure out who is your early adopter, and your business model will then get targeted towards it. So if it is meant for poor people, where do they shop? Do they shop on mobile phones? Do they shop in mall shops? So your business channels will start getting affected. So do they go to doctors who are high-end optometrists, or do they go to government hospitals? Your publicity literature will sit there, where people who influence the purchase will sit. So what I'm trying to say is the business model depends upon your customer segment. Therefore, depends upon what you want to solve. I hope you're getting the analogy, right? If you are building a business to solve the problems for all the 8% who are colorblind, it's not likely to work. It will cost money. It will defocus.
The best way to go around is to segment them and then solve one by one. Okay.
I don't know if it's one by one or more than one by at a time, but you need to be clear that a market consists of customers whose needs are different. The first step in a business model.
Okay.
So that's the reason why we raise this question. What problem are you? You're not solving the night blindness problem. You're not solving it. Remember this. Night blindness is the way you engage the person. You are helping people not distinguish colors, but need to distinguish colors to get the job. That is the problem you're solving. You're helping drivers of buses, for example, who can't keep their jobs because they are night blind and they've been told by doctors that you can't drive. Become a conductor and earn less. Become a cleaner and earn less. So that is their need. Okay, that is the problem that you're solving.
So we can go on to the next
Okay.
person, Jubin, who says he's also ready, and then we have Suraj, who says he can make a try. So let's go one after the other. So Jubin,
But what I want is, this is not a personal counseling class, but I'm trying to help you people think, how do you build a business model by starting with practical questions in your business?
yeah. So
Okay.
if these two can now, having heard through the conversation before, now how do you face your business model?
Yes, Ruben.
Hello, Jubin?
Hello, sir.
Yeah,
Yes,
we can hear you.
Hi, sir. This is Juvin from Iris Controls. So, speaking about what we are doing, we develop a driver assistant platform for Indian road users. So, basically, we are developing a driver assistant system with sensors mounted on different vehicles, which will eventually help the drivers to avoid the accidents. So, speaking about the problem which we are trying to solve, as you know, the Indian roads are becoming increasingly accident prone. The vehicle density in the road is increasing, and also there are a lot of potholes and lack of lane markings are there. And people actually don't, most of the time, don't follow the rules, and lack of a proper driver assistant platform is not available in India, and proper infrastructure is lagging, and traffic congestions, and these are the main problems in Indian roads which we are trying to solve. And how we are trying to solve, we are offering a product in B2B segment for automotive OEMs, which will be affordable, as well as for the current vehicle users, there will be aftermarket fitment. So these are the two ways in which we are approaching the market, and about how it is getting sold today. Yes, sir.
Yeah, let's stop with these two, okay? For the time being.
Yes.
So let me repeat again.
Yes.
Who has the problem that you are trying to solve?
Sir, the problem which we are trying to solve is the increasing accidents in India.
That's not my question. Who has the problem that you're trying to solve?
For the people who are using the road.
So I'm using the road. I'm not worried that we have too many. Many of you use the road. So this is not a moral question. None of us is worried.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I understood. Sir, actually, if you see, one accident is happening in each minute, and one death is happening in each 4 minutes in India. So this is the rate at which accidents are going on.
I agree with all the statistics. They are horrible.
Yes,
Who is worried about this problem? So enough to pay you.
Yes, sir. People are becoming more aware of the safety features which are available in the car. You can see the case of new Tata cars like Harrier and all. Like the main promotion for that car is due to the extra safety 5-star rating involved. So people are more concerned about what is there in the car and how it is built. Like the poor rated cars like Maruti cars are nowadays becoming obsolete, and Indian people are becoming more aware of how my vehicle is built, and my family is it safe inside. So people are more aware of what is going on. Like the cars nowadays, like only in the entry segment where people look for very cheap cars. Once we have money to afford, people are more aware about the safety and the safety of the family.
Okay. All right. I'm not saying you're right or wrong, but we need to have more clarity on how people think safety is required and not required.
Yes, sir. Yes. Yes, sir.
I'm going to move on now because my idea was to give a flavor to some of you who volunteered to come and speak about your business model, right, as you see it, and how you think you'll build it. And my objective is sensitize you and the others who are hearing that the problem that you're solving could actually be a little different from what you think you're building a solution for. In each of your cases, you might want to for others who have not spoken. Okay. Sure. I'm going to move on a bit. I'm sorry. Otherwise, we may not have time to cover. I want to spend some time on figuring out what are revenue model, what are business models, right? So let me go to the next slide I have, and I want to talk a little bit about different business models and revenue models. Satya, we stop at 4, right? Satya?
Yes, Raghu, we have time until 4.
Okay. Now I want people to answer to this question. What do you think is the business model of this company called Amazon Web Services? Anybody heard of them? Any volunteer?
Yes, sir. I've heard of AWS.
What do they do? What does AWS do?
So they provide cloud infrastructure.
So what is unique about their business model?
So basically, it is pay as you go. So basically, if I want, it is that mean the more I'll consume the resources, I have to pay for that. So I don't have to reserve the resources in advance and pay for the rent and all.
Yes.
Like if I have some,
Yeah, very good. That's a good answer. So what it means is, if you are a startup and you want to start a mailing service, or you want to have any kind of a server, you don't have to invest in a server, in an office, in a inverter, nothing. You just need a connection to Amazon Web Services, and they make available full-fledged web, a server space and whatever you want to do with all data secrecy, 24/7 availability, uptime, and all of that. And you are paid exactly for how much time you use. So no investment for you, and you pay as you go, as was rightly mentioned. So that's a good business model, and AWS has become one of the leading providers of cloud services worldwide, right? So theirs is a usage fee model, right? How many of you have heard of Netflix? All of you. What is the model that Netflix uses? Anyone?
Hello,
What's
sir.
the business model of Netflix?
The Netflix business model is more on a subscription, monthly and annual subscription. And their one important pitch point they are putting is no advertisements.
So
watch without advertisements. Like
beauty of Netflix is you pay, it's called eat as much as you can. You pay 500 rupees, for example, okay, a month. I'm just taking that as an example. You see as many movies as you want, as many number of times. They may restrict the number of screens that you see it on simultaneously, right? But that's the model they have. You could well think of an alternative model. What if Netflix said, I will pay every time you see it? So suppose there's a movie and you see it once, but you want to see it again, or your parents want to see it again because you said it's a nice movie. Netflix doesn't charge you more for it. What they have seen is that this model maximizes their revenue. It's one of the highest users of analytics worldwide, and based on how people have put their money and used their viewership, they have maximized their revenue by using this kind of a subscription model. So that's Netflix for you. It's a very different model from what many people would think is the right way to go. Okay. How many of you have heard of Zoom Car? What does it do?
It rents out cars to
Yes.
those
So
like for on a daily basis.
it doesn't rent out car. It does something different. You live in Chennai and you go to Bangalore, you can have a car in Bangalore to drive around. Okay, it's a rental leasing service,
Yes.
but it makes available to you or the user a car wherever he or she goes to and wants to drive around for a day or two with driver. Usually they are self-driven. Okay, so it's catering to a very specific segment, those who want to drive around, want to be independent and are confident of driving a car. There are lots of people who don't want to drive a car, have a problem, don't enjoy it. They would rather be driven around. For them, it's a taxi. They don't cater to that segment. And that's what I mean by a business model choosing customer segments. Zoom Car doesn't cater to everybody who wants a car. Very specific. Okay? And they work only in a few cities. They don't work all over the place. Right? What's the symbol? Microsoft.
Windows.
Right?
Microsoft.
Microsoft. What is their business model? They do something called licensing and IP. So when I buy Microsoft Word or PowerPoint, which I'm using right now, I don't own it. But I have the right to use it on one machine or two machines, depending on the number of licenses I bought. So this is a model. If you have a replicable model, it could be software or hardware, right? And you can franchise it. If it's a software product, you license it, right, for given users, without losing ownership of that product. I can't copy it and sell it or make copies of it. I mean, I can't do it legally. Okay. A variation of this is franchisee business. Think of McDonald's. McDonald's, what is its product? It has recipes, right? And it has central kitchens. But they don't own any of their stores anywhere, right? And they franchise them and they give them a way to do it, a business. That's their model. Okay. What is this? Airbnb. Any idea? Any of you used an Airbnb? Airbnb is like Oyo rooms. They have the largest number of rooms in the world, bigger than any chain of hotels, which may have been there for more than 100 years. This company is less than 10 years old or about that age. But they have more rooms which they can rent out. They actually rent out than many of the leading hotel chains in the world. So theirs is a model, right, which is an intermediary broker. So there are people like you and me who have surplus rooms in our houses. We put them up in exchange for a fee for people to come and stay there. So they are more inexpensive, but they are functional in terms of people who are traveling and require a room in a strange city, in a different city that they live in. So they are a brokerage service to people who have extra rooms and putting together with people who are looking for rooms to stay in out of their hometowns. And it's a completely different model that has revolutionized the hotel industry. They're in trouble now because of COVID, but that's a different problem. What is the Facebook model?
Advertisement.
The Facebook model, the Google, right, and newspapers and many others follow what's called multi-sided markets. What that means is you are a customer of Google when you go and search something. But do you pay anything? You don't really pay anything. Who pays for it? There are advertisers behind whom you are not aware of. Most people on Facebook don't have a paid account. Maybe some corporates do, but you and I, when we use Facebook, we don't pay. But Facebook makes a lot of money. Facebook does that, Google does that by looking at, because they have data of what you are searching for, what your interests are, right? And what you like to see. And therefore, maybe those are services that you might want to consume. They put your data available to people who want to sell these goods and services as advertisements. Google goes further. Google gets paid only when you click on those advertisements. Click and pay, is what the model is. So that's a two-sided market. And it might be useful for any of you to think, are you in double-sided markets? I didn't hear any example but, from what I heard from you, but it's worth your while to think whether any of you are two-sided markets and whether you can learn from any of these strategies. Okay? How many of you have heard of or used Dropbox? All of you? Right? Dropbox is a very popular service where you can use your files at IIT, at sitting at home or at office or wherever you are. You can be in a different position. You can access your server. It basically gives you space to keep things. But they use a model, a very clever model called the freemium. What that means is, even LinkedIn is another service that many of us probably use. It's a freemium service. What that says is, for a certain amount of usage, you don't pay, you're free. Google Gmail is the same principle. For a certain amount of usage, you get a lot of features for free, right? But if you want more storage, you want some more facilities, there's a paid service. So freemium model is used as a business model, as a pricing model, as a revenue model to entice people to join in. There is a startup called Byju's, which is not more than 10 years old. And it's already got valuation in billions of dollars. They have a freemium model. That's a business that makes teaching aids for kids. They give it for free actually to the parents. The parents are given this, the kids start using it. It's free for about maybe a month. I don't know what. They get used to the material, and after a month, it goes to paid form. And since you got so used to it, kids have started liking it and doing better at school. Parents are persuaded to buy it. So that's called a freemium model, right? Again, you entice people, you make them familiar with it, you make them break the barriers that they might have, give them usage comfort, and once they are hooked, or once they start liking it, they start charging for it. So, I'm giving you some ideas of what business models and revenue models can be. These are magazines. These again follow the same model that we talked about, advertisement and revenue. All newspapers and media, typically even television channels, follow this model, right? I'll move on from a gym model, which is a subscription model like Netscape, right? I'll go into a couple of interesting models. Uber is a model that's now catching. Uber is something that everybody's used, right? Who is the customer? Who is the user? Sometimes becomes very confusing, right? Uber was sued for being a taxi provider, but Uber says, I'm not a taxi provider. I'm just a technology platform. Right? My customers are taxi drivers. That's what Uber says, and got away with it. In many countries, he's got away with that legal standing. So Uber is a technical service provider. His business model is to put taxi owners and taxi users together. And that's what he does. But he does many other things in a very innovative manner. So Uber model is a very powerful model which can be used in many places, right? I'll move on in the interest of time. Dolby, for those who don't know, Dolby is a high-tech music. It's actually started as an algorithm, mathematical algorithm to convert music to digital to bytes, okay? And then Dolby became a very high fidelity music because they were able to reproduce it. They were able to condense, parse it, and store it in the least space, and then use algorithms to reconvert it back to audio in the most authentic manner and the most efficient manner. And today, Dolby is a high-end music track systems used by films and music record players. That's what Dolby started as, a mathematical algorithm. Okay. Mercedes-Benz, everybody knows this. Everybody thinks Mercedes-Benz makes money by selling cars. They do. But increasingly, their money is made by servicing cars that they have sold. The cars age very slowly. Many of them go on to become vintage cars. You can't repair a Mercedes-Benz yourself. You can't take it to a garage and get it repaired. Even the garage has to use a laptop to dial into Stuttgart for the latest models. It's so sophisticated. The engine management control unit is so sophisticated that diagnosis is actually done remotely. And they make money increasingly today by repair of cars, maintenance of cars, sometimes leasing of cars and buying it back and rehauling them as much as by selling new cars. That's a revenue model. So even luxury cars are changing on their business models. This is the most interesting model. This is a manufacturing company. This is not one of those digital companies. Any idea how Rolls-Royce makes money?
Spare parts.
Rolls-Royce is an engine making company. Rolls-Royce is one of the 3 leading companies in the world that makes aero engines. I mean, they have other businesses like luxury cars, but here I'm talking about their business that makes jet engines for Boeing and Airbus and Lockheed, I mean, other people. Anyone here who knows how Rolls-Royce gets paid?
Spare parts.
Spare parts, okay. What's the biggest chunk of Rolls-Royce revenue?
MRO, maintenance, repair and overhaul, and spare parts.
Yes, in a way you're right, but let me tell you what it is. Because what happened is airlines became very dominant, and therefore how Rolls-Royce makes money is they are paid by the number of hours their engines work. If their engines are working and they're in the air, right, they're guaranteeing uptime. Okay, they're guaranteeing uptime and minimizing time between failures and being uptime and being on the air. They get paid for the number of hours they fly. That's monitored, and that's how airlines pay them. They don't pay for the capital cost of an engine. So that's become the model for Pratt & Whitney and Rolls-Royce, who are leading engine makers. So you can really see the Amazon model of pay as you use going into Rolls-Royce. So what they're doing is they're sharing the business risk. So it's not that they have sold their engines, and if the airlines don't work, they lose. So in today's situation, when the planes are down, Rolls-Royce is losing as much money as Emirates or Air India or Jet or any of these airlines is losing, because they have tied their fortune with that of the airlines. What that has done is that has enabled them to sell more engines, and in sharing the risk, they have lowered the barriers for different airlines to start buying more of them, and thereby they have found their revenue maximizing strategy. Of course, they get money for spares, of course, they get money for maintenance and all of that. But principally, they get paid on pay as you use. So this is really what I want. I could have shared many more with you. If you look at, I'll just give one final story of how a business model makes a difference. You can go and Google this on the net. You'll see at least 10 stories in YouTube and maybe even on Google. The company is Nestle. Nestle is one of the most successful and famous consumer brands, food brands. They make Nescafe in India, and they make foods. I mean, they make Maggi and those noodles and that. They're very famous for their coffee brand the world over. And they launched a product called Nespresso. What that did was a coffee machine. So they thought, we will bring out a coffee making machine. We will have a coffee pod. A coffee pod is simply a small sachet of coffee, a plastic sachet, which is consumed in putting hot water, and there's a dispenser that gives milk without. I mean, all those options are there in a ready-made coffee machine. One pod for coffee, and it sells. It's unique, and they brought it out, and they thought that they will sell it. This product bombed. It was launched for a couple of $1 billion worldwide in Europe, basically in Europe, and it bombed completely. And they decided to mothball this business until their chief marketing officer became the head of, the CEO of Nestle at that time. And he said, I think I know why this failed. I will revive this. So he changed the business model. He said, we are not going to sell the machine. We are only going to sell the coffee pod. They gave it to franchisees to sell, and they got paid only for the pod. They had a brand, and it started getting installed in malls, in bank counters, in high-end shops, in bookstores, in universities. So there were different people who took it up and started to install it, and they started billing. And Nespro only made money on selling the pods. Just by getting out of all this, because Nestle had no experience in retailing. They simply made consumer products and sold it through retailers. They didn't understand that business. By changing the business model, they said, we understand brands, we know how to make, we know how to sell. That's it. What happens after that, we don't know. We are not in touch with the consumer, direct touch with the consumer. This business multiplied and today is several $1 billion of revenue and profits for Nestle. So simple, just twisting the business model has made a world of a difference between a product failure and a product success. So what I want to leave you entrepreneurs thinking about from these examples is what you can do. But before you do all that, you have to answer the 3 or 4 questions. What problem are you solving and for what customer segment? Because if you trivialize that part, your business model will get built wrongly. If you think you're solving night blindness, for example, or you're solving the number of accidents in the city, or you're solving bad toilets or the lack of toilets, that may not be the problem that you should be solving. Nobody may be having that problem, or nobody may be responsible for that problem, or nobody may be bothered by that problem. To find out who has a problem that you think you should solve. And that should become the starting point for you to build your business models by looking at one or more of these examples, or maybe outside of these. So let me stop here. If you have questions, I'll take it, or if you want to come back later, I'm just as fine for that. Thank you.
So thanks a lot, Raghu. I think that's a very powerful message. Looking at how do you first identify those answer to those 3 questions as efficiently as possible, and then get on with the business, building the business. So there is a related question which says, among the different business models available, many businesses can fit into multiple models. So how do we select an optimum one if there is something called as an optimum one? And maybe you can share some thoughts on it.
I wish that's an answer that can be told. An optimum model is one that gets you
money,
your objectives. If money is your objective, the one that can get you most money, see, as a startup, your objective should not be to make money to start with. Money will follow. That can be your objective, ultimate objective. Your objective should be to get early customers. Fundamentally, early paying customers. That should be your objective. So if you identify the wrong segments, no business model will correct you. And that's what Nestle had done. They identified the wrong business model, the wrong customers. Right? They had a good product. They had a good capability. They had all of that. They blew at a couple of $1 billion, but they figured out. So therefore, figure out who are early adopters. You don't have $1 billion to blow. If you did, then you're wasting your time here. Just go blow it. Okay? And you'll build your startup. Since we don't have $1 billion to blow, you have to be careful about the resources you have. Figure out who are the early adopters. How do you figure out who are the early adopters? By asking the right questions, not by developing the right answers. You don't know what the right answers are. The right answers are the ones that find early adopters. So to those people who said, I'm solving night blindness, I'm reducing accidents, I'm building toilets, or I'm solving water problem, go back and think again. I'm not saying you're wrong, but find the problems and who has the problems that are worth solving and who will buy into your solutions the fastest. If you have time, if you do a wrong dialing, that means go to the wrong customer, you're wasting time, you're wasting resources, you're burning yourself out. Startups don't have that luxury, right? So you have to hit the jackpot quickly, which means early adopters, and then you can build around that. So the business model that is right is the one that gets you early adopters to try your product and pay you. That's the answer I have.
Okay. Well, Raghu, I think that was quite useful. I think that's probably the best answer we can expect right now, given so many uncertainties are there. Thanks a lot, and hopefully we can continue to build this kind of sessions as a program for the entrepreneurs that we have here. I'll discuss that with you in the future. Thanks for your time on a Sunday afternoon, and I wish all the other participants good luck with finding these answers.
One last point from me, Satya. I know you have to have the last word, but let me say this. My idea in not giving a lecture was it would not have been useful. They would not have derived it. So even if it was a very unconventional class, my objective was to provoke a few people and thereby, give a collective learning to the class as to what exactly is a business model. A business model is not a theoretical construct. It is something that is around the customer and that you need to build, not around your product. And therefore, to understand who the customer is not a trivial question. It is not what you think it is. Go back and think about these 4 or 5 questions I've raised, and you might succeed in figuring out who your real customer and early adopters are. That's how you'll build a business model that works. Thank you.
Thank you. You have a good weekend, Raghu.
Thank you. All of you, whatever is left of it.
Good.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Stay safe.